I was standing at the door with my suitcase, ready to fly with my daughter on vacation, when I received a message. You are not coming to Europe with us. My husband prefers this vacation to be a family vacation. They took only my father-in-law and mother-in-law with them and left me behind. This is after I paid for their new house, so I canceled all the payments and sold it. You won't believe what happened when they came home. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you are listening in the comments. I was folding my favorite travel shirt when my phone buzzed against the nightstand. The blue cotton felt soft between my fingers as I smoothed out the wrinkles, thinking about wearing it to dinner in that little bistro Lindsay had found near the Louvre. My suitcase lay open on the bed like a promise, half filled with carefully chosen clothes for our European adventure. The weather app showed sunny skies in Paris, perfect for the walking tours I'd printed out and tucked into my carry-on. I'd been humming an old Frank Sinatra tune while deciding between my brown leather shoes and the comfortable walking sneakers. The tickets to Charles de Gaulle sat on my nightstand next to my passport, both documents crisp and ready. 6 hours until departure. My heart carried that familiar flutter of pre-travel excitement mixed with nervous energy. The phone buzzed again. Lindsay's name appeared on the screen. I set down the shirt and picked up my phone, expecting last-minute flight details or a reminder about meeting at the airport. Instead, I found words that made my blood freeze. You're not coming with us to Europe. My husband thinks it's better if this vacation stays family only. I read it once, then twice, then a third time, my thumb hovering over the screen like it might change the message if I waited long enough. The sweater I'd been about to fold remained suspended in my hands as my mind struggled to process what I was seeing. Family only. The phrase repeated itself in my head like a broken record. I was her father. I had planned this trip. I had bought the tickets, researched the restaurants, mapped out the itinerary during countless late-night planning sessions. What did family only mean when you were talking to your own father? I sat down heavily on the edge of the bed, the suitcase still gaping open beside me. My hands trembled slightly as I typed back the only response I could manage. Okay. The weight of disappointment settled into my chest like a stone. I looked around my bedroom, seeing everything I'd prepared for a trip that would never happen. The travel-sized toiletries lined up on my dresser. The guidebooks with yellow sticky notes marking places we'd planned to visit. The new camera I'd bought specifically for this vacation, still in its box. I closed the suitcase with deliberate, careful movements. Each click of the latches sounded final in the quiet room. Then I called the airline, listening to hold music while I waited to cancel my ticket. The customer service representative was sympathetic but efficient. I'm sorry to hear about your change of plans, Mr. Owens, she said, and I wondered if she could hear the disappointment in my voice. Afterward, I sat in my living room, staring at the travel brochures scattered across my coffee table. The house felt emptier than usual, quieter in a way that made my ears ring. Outside, Mrs. Peterson's dog barked at something in the distance, the sound sharp and insistent in the suburban stillness. I picked up one of the brochures, a glossy pamphlet about Roman architecture, and set it aside on the end table. The gesture felt small and meaningless, but it was all I could manage in that moment of understanding that I had been carefully, deliberately left behind. Evening arrived with the same quiet emptiness that had filled my house all day. I'd moved through the hours like a ghost, leaving my dinner dishes in the sink instead of washing them immediately like I always did. The packed suitcase still sat by my bedroom door, a constant reminder of plans that would never unfold. The television murmured from the living room, some evening news program I wasn't really watching. I kept checking my phone for no particular reason, scrolling through nothing, restless energy making my fingers twitch against the screen. Maybe Facebook would provide some distraction from the hollow feeling in my chest. I scrolled past Mrs. Johnson's cat photos, recipe shares from my book club, political posts I didn't want to read. The familiar blue glow of the screen was oddly comforting in the growing darkness of my living room. Then I saw it, Todd's parents standing in front of the Eiffel Tower, both of them grinning at the camera with that satisfied look of tourists who'd found the perfect photo opportunity. The caption read, "Beginning of the best family vacation ever." The timestamp showed it was posted 2 hours ago. My thumb froze above the screen. Maybe they'd taken a separate trip. Maybe this was an old photo they'd just decided to share. My heart began beating faster as I clicked on the profile to see more photos. There it was. Same location, same time, but this photo included 4 people. Todd's parents, Todd and Lindsay, all of them clustered together in front of a Parisian cafe, wine glasses on the table behind them. Lindsay's caption made my stomach drop. So grateful for family time in the city of light. I counted the faces in the photo with trembling fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4. The word family burned in my mind like a brand. I set the phone down on the coffee table, its screen still glowing with their happy faces. I stood up and paced to the kitchen window, looking out at my neighbor's house where warm lights spilled from the windows, families together for the evening. The betrayal hit me in waves, each one stronger than the last. I picked up the phone again, hoping I'd misunderstood somehow, hoping the photos would tell a different story. But they were still there, timestamps still fresh, their smiles still bright and carefree. The 4 of them together in the city I'd dreamed of visiting, spending the vacation I'd planned, using the itinerary I'd researched. I walked back to the kitchen window and saw my own reflection staring back at me, ghostly and hollow-eyed. Behind my reflection, the phone screen showed their group photo, their happiness overlaid with my solitary image in the glass. The contrast was stark and painful, a visual reminder of exactly where I stood in their definition of family. I'd barely slept, tossing and turning while images of their vacation photos played behind my closed eyelids. Morning came with gray light filtering through my bedroom curtains, and I knew I needed answers. I couldn't let this stand without understanding why. My coffee mug shook slightly in my hands as I sat at the kitchen table, rehearsing what I would say to Lindsay. The time difference meant it was afternoon in Paris, perfect for a call. I took a deep breath and dialed her number, listening to the expensive-sounding international ringtone. 3 rings, 4 rings, then her voice, bright and cheerful. "Hi, Dad." I could hear background noise, Todd's voice, street sounds, the bustling atmosphere of a European city. "I need to understand something," I said without preamble. "What's that?" She sounded distracted, probably looking at some monument or shop window. "I saw the photos on Facebook. Todd's parents are there with you." There was a pause, a long one. Then her voice changed, becoming defensive. "Dad, we can explain." "You said it was family only. What am I then?" Her tone shifted colder now. "Look, Todd said you can be overwhelming. He didn't want his vacation ruined." The word overwhelming hit me like a physical blow. Ruined? I planned this trip. I bought the tickets. And Todd's parents paid for their own. They don't expect us to take care of them constantly. Constantly. The word hung in the air between us like an accusation. "I supported you both when—" "That was your choice," she interrupted. "We never asked for a guilt trip." I could hear Todd laughing in the background about something else entirely, his voice carefree and oblivious to our conversation. The sound made my jaw clench. "Honestly, Dad," Lindsay continued, her voice hardening with each word, "Todd was right. You are too needy." The phone felt heavy in my hand. "I understand." "Good. We'll talk when we get back." "Understood." I hung up without saying goodbye. I set the phone down with deliberate care, the word needy echoing in my mind like a curse. I walked to my office, drawn by some instinct I couldn't name. The walls were covered with family photos. Me teaching Lindsay to ride a bike, her graduation from college, her wedding day where I'd walked her down the aisle with tears of pride in my eyes. My hands slowly clenched into fists as I stared at these images of a relationship I'd apparently misunderstood completely. In one photo, I was holding baby Lindsay, both of us smiling at the camera. My reflection in the glass showed an older man, harder now, with something cold growing behind his eyes. I reached out and straightened the photo frame with careful, precise movements. The small action felt significant somehow, like I was adjusting more than just a crooked picture. I remained in my office after the call, surrounded by the evidence of what I'd thought was love, but was apparently just usefulness. Each photo on the wall told a story I was only now beginning to understand properly. The wedding photo where I walked Lindsay down the aisle. I'd paid $30,000 for that day, every detail perfect because I wanted her to be happy. The college graduation picture. I'd covered her student loans when Todd couldn't find work after his own graduation. The house hunting photos scattered across my desk. I'd co-signed their mortgage when the banks wouldn't approve them on their own. Christmas photos showed expensive gifts under trees I'd bought. Birthdays where my presents were opened last, almost as an afterthought. Each memory added weight to my chest, a growing pressure that made it hard to breathe. I opened my desk drawer and pulled out bank statements and receipts I'd kept from habit. The down payment for their house, $80,000 from my retirement fund, money I'd saved for my own future, car payments I'd taken over when Todd lost his first job, credit card bills I'd paid when they couldn't make ends meet, the vacation fund I'd been building for years, money that had bought their tickets to Europe. But it wasn't just the money. I remembered canceled plans, sacrifices I'd made that went deeper than dollars. The fishing trip with old friends I'd canceled because Lindsay needed babysitting. The woman from my book club who'd asked me to dinner. I'd said no because Lindsay needed help moving. My own travel dreams postponed again and again while I supported theirs. Sunday dinners where Todd barely acknowledged my presence. Holiday gatherings where I felt like an outsider in conversations. The subtle ways he'd made me feel unwelcome in their lives, while simultaneously accepting my financial support. The pattern was so clear now, I couldn't believe I'd missed it. My hands shook as I stacked the photos face down, unable to look at them anymore. The word needy played on repeat in my mind, like a broken record. Suddenly, with startling clarity, I understood the difference between being loved and being useful. They'd never asked me to join their lives. They'd asked me to fund them. I stood up so fast my chair rolled backward and hit the wall. In the mirror above my desk, I saw someone who'd been taken advantage of for years, someone who'd confused generosity with love and received manipulation in return. The reflection showed a man who'd been patient and giving and trusting, and had been repaid with betrayal and dismissal. I opened my laptop and stared at my bank account dashboard, the cursor hovering over the authorized users section where both Lindsay and Todd had access to my accounts. My finger trembled above the trackpad, one click away from changing everything, but I closed the laptop without clicking. The action suspended, tension building like a storm gathering strength. Some decisions required more than impulse. Some decisions required planning. I sat in the heavy silence of my office. The laptop closed before me like a door I wasn't ready to open yet. The weight of years of manipulation pressed down on my shoulders, and I found myself staring at the family photos I'd turned face down. The quiet house seemed to hold its breath around me. Then my phone cut through the silence with that familiar ping of my banking app. I almost ignored it, expecting another routine spam notification about credit monitoring or promotional offers. But something made me pick it up, maybe just the need for any distraction from the dark thoughts circling in my mind. The screen showed account alert transaction processed. I opened the banking app with my fingerprint, half expecting to see my monthly utility bill or grocery store charge. Instead, the transaction details loaded like a punch to the gut. 7:45 Laos, Le Bernardin Restaurant, Paris, France. The timestamp showed 2 hours ago, right around their lunchtime in Paris. My mind connected the dots with painful clarity. Lindsay had used my authorized user card. I'd given her emergency access years ago when she was struggling to build credit, back when I thought I was helping her become financially independent. The irony burned in my chest. They'd excluded me from their family vacation, but were using my money to pay for their fancy Parisian meals. I scrolled through recent transactions with growing disbelief. Hotel charges, shopping boutiques, tourist attractions, all on my card. All while Todd's parents supposedly paid their own way and didn't expect us to take care of them constantly. I stood up, pacing around my office with the phone clutched in my hand. Every family photo on the wall looked different now, like evidence in a case I was finally beginning to understand. The phrase, "This is my chance," formed in my mind, clear and certain. I opened the card management section of the app, navigating to authorized users. Lindsay's name sat there in black digital letters, representing years of financial access I'd granted out of love and received manipulation in return. Another notification pinged on my screen. 85 bons et jours at Boutique Chic, Paris. She was shopping while I sat alone in my house, processing their betrayal. That decided it for me. My finger hovered over the Remove User button for just a moment. Years of being the supportive father warred with the growing certainty that support and exploitation were different things. The confirmation screen appeared. Are you sure? This action cannot be undone. I selected Yes, remove immediately. The screen confirmed. Authorized user access revoked. I felt my first taste of real control in years, a sensation both foreign and satisfying. I set the phone down on my desk with deliberate care, looking at my reflection in the dark computer screen. For the first time in days, a small smile crossed my face. I walked to my kitchen to make coffee, my movements more purposeful than they'd been since receiving that first devastating text. The coffee maker gurgled to life, and through my window I could hear my neighbor's lawnmower starting up. Ordinary life continuing while my quiet revolution began. The next morning found me at my kitchen table, actually enjoying my coffee for the first time in days. The morning paper lay spread before me, and I was reading about local high school graduations when my phone rang with aggressive persistence. The international number was one I recognized, and I checked the time. 9 a.m. here, which meant 4 p.m. in Paris. I let it ring twice before answering, no longer eager to please or worried about missing their call. Good morning to you too, Lindsay, I said, hearing her sharp intake of breath on the other end. Dad, what did you do to the card? Her voice was immediately demanding. No pleasantries or concern for how I was doing. I removed your access to my account. Don't give me that. I tried to pay for lunch, and it was declined. In front of Todd's parents. The shrillness in her voice could have cut glass. The waiter had to come back 3 times. It was humiliating. That must have been embarrassing, I replied, taking another sip of my coffee. Embarrassing? It was mortifying. You can't do that. I need that card. For what? I thought you didn't need me taking care of you constantly. That's completely different. Her voice was getting higher with each word. Is it? There was a pause, and I could hear muffled conversation in the background, before she came back with venom in her voice. You fix this right now, or there will be consequences. What kind of consequences? Todd and I have been talking. When we get back, we're looking into care facilities. My coffee cup paused halfway to my lips. Care facilities? You're getting older, Dad. You obviously can't handle your finances responsibly. The cruelty in her tone was breathtaking. We'll sell your house to pay for it. You don't need all that space anyway. I heard Todd's voice in the background. Tell him it's for his own good. Todd says it's for your own good. I sat in long silence, processing these threats. They wanted to institutionalize me and sell my home because I'd stopped funding their vacation spending. The audacity was staggering. Dad, are you listening? Restore my card access. I heard every word. Good, so you'll fix it? No. What do you mean, no? I mean, no. Enjoy the rest of your family vacation. Dad, don't you dare. I hung up and set the phone face down on the table. My hands were steady as I took a long sip of coffee, looking out my kitchen window at my well-maintained yard, this house I'd lived in for 30 years, paid off in full, with my name alone on the deed, the house they thought they could sell to warehouse me somewhere convenient. I stood up with new purpose, leaving my coffee unfinished, and walked toward my home office with determined steps. There was work to be done. I pulled my house deed from the filing cabinet, spreading it across my desk like a battle plan. But it wasn't my own deed I was studying. It was the second property document, the one for Lindsay and Todd's house on Maple Street. My name alone on the title, just as it had been since I bought it for them. I remembered the conversation 2 years ago. Just for the mortgage approval, sweetie. We'll transfer it to our names once everything's settled. They'd been too busy with their lives to handle the paperwork, always promising to get around to it next month, next season, next year. I found Marcus Chen's business card in my desk drawer. He'd sold me both properties, a trustworthy man who understood discretion. I grabbed my keys and headed for the door. The drive to his office took me through familiar Davenport streets. Mrs. Patterson waved from her garden as I backed out of my driveway, her friendly gesture a reminder of the ordinary morning this appeared to be. 20 minutes later, I parked at Chen Real Estate, housed in a converted Victorian that Marcus had restored with obvious care. Marcus looked up from his computer as I entered, surprise and pleasure crossing his features. Gary, Good to see you. How's retirement treating you? I need to sell the Maple Street property. Quickly. He paused, his experienced eyes reading something in my expression. The house you bought for Lindsay, is everything all right? Everything's fine. I just need it sold. What's the market like? Marcus turned to his computer, pulling up comparable sales with professional efficiency. Market's hot right now. Properties like that, in that neighborhood, 180,000, maybe 90,000. The number hit me with satisfaction. I'd paid $130,000 2 years ago. How quickly are we talking? Marcus asked. As soon as possible. Price it to move. He pulled out listing paperwork, property inspection schedules, his movements practiced and reassuring. We'll need photos, maybe some staging. I can have my team there tomorrow. The house is currently occupied. Oh, will Lindsay be handling the showings? Lindsay's in Europe. I have keys. Marcus looked slightly confused, but professionally accepting. We discussed listing price, commission, closing timelines. I signed the listing agreement, my signature firm and decisive. I'll start marketing immediately, Marcus said. In this market, we could have offers within days. We shook hands, and I appreciated his professionalism, the way he asked no unnecessary questions. Walking back to my car, I felt lighter than I had in days. The classical music from my radio filled the silence as I drove slowly through downtown Davenport, seeing my hometown with new eyes. At a red light, a young family crossed the crosswalk, father carrying a toddler, mother pushing a stroller. I remembered when Lindsay was that age, before everything became about money and manipulation and what I could provide rather than who I was. I pulled into my driveway and sat for a moment, looking at my mailbox with Owens painted on it in faded letters. The name felt different now, like it meant something again. I walked up my front steps, keys jingling in my hand, a sound that promised more changes were coming. Inside my house, I opened my laptop to find an email notification from the real estate listing service. Property listed successfully appeared on the screen, and I felt a surge of satisfaction seeing those words. But there was more work to be done. I opened a new browser tab and searched Moving Services Davenport, Iowa. Large corporate companies filled the first results, but I scrolled past them, looking for something personal and reliable. I found Dave's Honest Moving, a small operation with good reviews, family-owned for 15 years, the kind of business where you talk to the owner, not a call center. I dialed the number, hoping for exactly that. Dave's Moving. This is Dave. The voice was deep, straightforward, no corporate script. I need help moving some belongings tomorrow. It's a time-sensitive situation. What kind of timeline are we talking about? Tomorrow morning, if possible. It's a full house worth of items. Where are we moving from and to? Dave asked. I gave him Lindsay's address, explaining that everything needed to go to storage. Storage unit lined up? He asked, and I realized I needed to arrange that too. I can recommend Secure Storage on Brady Street, Dave continued. Work with them all the time. Want their number? Within minutes, I had Janet from Secure Storage on a three-way call, discussing logistics. For a full house, you'll want at least a 10x20 unit, Dave advised. First month paid in advance. That's $120, Janet added. I'll take it. Could someone meet us there tomorrow? Back on the phone with Dave, we finalized the details. My truck and two guys, we can start at 8 a.m. What's the address again? I provided Lindsay's Maple Street address, adding, The residents are out of town. I'd prefer to have everything done before they return. Understood. Family situation? Dave's tone suggested he'd navigated these waters before. Something like that. Been there myself. Will be efficient and respectful. After ending the calls and paying for storage online, I made myself dinner with an appetite I hadn't felt in days. I set my alarm for 6:30 a.m., earlier than my usual retirement schedule, and laid out work clothes, my old jeans and boots from my contracting days, before I'd become someone who funded other people's dreams instead of pursuing his own. I sat in my living room watching the evening news with different attention. The weather forecast promised clear skies, perfect for moving. Everything was falling into place with a precision that felt both satisfying and inevitable. That night, I double-checked that my phone was charging, setting it on my nightstand next to a glass of water. In the bathroom mirror, brushing my teeth, I saw someone I barely recognized, Someone ready for action, someone who'd stopped waiting for permission to take control of his own life. I arrived at the Maple Street property at 7:45 a.m., 15 minutes early, as was my habit. The familiar house looked different to me now, not my daughter's home, but simply a property that needed to be cleared. Dave's moving truck was already parked outside, engine running, exhaust visible in the crisp morning air. Dave emerged from the cab as I pulled up, a sturdy man in his 50s with the practical demeanor of someone who'd handled countless family situations without judgment. His two crew members, younger guys in matching company shirts, were already unloading equipment with efficient movements. "Mr. Owens?" Dave extended a work-roughened hand. "Ready to get started?" I unlocked the front door with my spare key, the house silent and empty in a way that felt appropriate. We walked through room by room, Dave assessing furniture and personal items with a professional eye. "This is going to take about 3 hours, maybe 4 with the heavy pieces," he said, making notes on his clipboard. I pointed out what belonged to Lindsay and Todd, which was everything. The expensive sectional sofa I'd bought them last Christmas, Todd's elaborate home office setup with gaming equipment, Lindsay's extensive wardrobe that filled 2 walk-in closets. The crew started with boxes from the bedrooms, wrapping and labeling with systematic care. I insisted on helping, despite Dave's protests about liability. "I'm not that old," I told him, earning a grin from one of the younger workers. Soon I was carrying boxes labeled Lindsay's books and Todd's sports equipment, feeling a strange satisfaction at seeing their possessions being packed away so methodically. In their bedroom closet, I found photo albums from their wedding. Flipping through, I noticed I was conspicuously absent from most pictures. Todd's family prominent in every shot, while I appeared in maybe 3 photos, always at the edges. I closed the album and handed it to Dave's crew. Room by room, we cleared out expensive items I'd forgotten I bought them. Designer handbags, electronics, the leather dining set I'd purchased for their first anniversary. My back started to ache, but I pushed through, driven by a purpose I hadn't felt in years. In what would have been a future nursery, I found baby furniture they'd optimistically assembled for grandchildren that never came. For a moment, doubt crept in. Was I being too harsh? Then I found Todd's credit card statements showing luxury purchases while they claimed poverty to me, and the doubt evaporated completely. "You okay, Mr. Owens?" Dave asked, noticing my pause. "Just memories. Keep going." By 11:30 a.m., we finished our final walkthrough of the empty house. Rooms echoed differently now, afternoon sunlight streaming through bare windows onto vacant floors. I locked up and pocketed the keys, following the moving truck to secure storage, where I watched their belongings disappear into Unit 47B. I paid Dave in cash, adding a generous tip. "Hope everything works out for you, Mr. Owens," he said with genuine warmth. Driving home alone, I saw my phone light up with a Facebook notification. I pulled into my garage, the device still buzzing in the cup holder, like an insistent reminder that my quiet morning was about to become much more complicated. Inside my house, I finally checked the buzzing phone to find multiple Facebook notifications. Lindsay had posted angry status updates. Some people have no respect for family privacy. The comments showed friends asking what happened, with Lindsay playing the victim to perfection. I closed Facebook without responding and called Marcus Chen back. "Gary, great news!" Marcus's voice was excited. "We have a serious buyer, cash offer." "Already?" "Young couple, just relocated here for work. They love the neighborhood." He paused for effect. "Offer amount is $185,000, higher than we expected." The number hit me with satisfaction. "When do they want to close?" "That's the thing. They want to close immediately. They could move in this weekend if possible." I checked my calendar. Today was Thursday. "This weekend?" "They're in a corporate apartment, month to month. Very motivated buyers." Marcus's enthusiasm was infectious. "Can you handle expedited closing? I can have paperwork ready by tomorrow?" "Make it happen." Friday morning found me at the title company office, signing papers with methodical precision. I met the buyers, Michael and Sarah Thompson, early 30s, the kind of hopeful young couple that reminded me of Lindsay and Todd before cynicism took hold. "We love what you've done with the landscaping," Sarah said during our final walkthrough of the empty house. I didn't mention it wasn't my landscaping. "It's perfect," Michael said, accepting the keys. We can move in tomorrow morning? The bank transfer confirmation appeared on my phone. $185,000 minus realtor fees equaled $172,500 profit. I'd turned my gesture of paternal love into a solid business win. Saturday morning, I decided to drive by the property one last time. I arrived to see a U-Haul truck in the driveway, Michael and Sarah directing movers with infectious energy. A baby crib was being carried inside, young family starting fresh in a house that had seen too much disappointment. I parked across the street, watching Sarah plant flowers in the front garden while Michael assembled a swing set in the backyard. My phone rang with an international number, and I answered just as a taxi pulled up to the house. Perfect timing. Lindsay stepped out first, exhausted from travel but immediately alert as she surveyed the scene. Todd paid the driver, his face shifting from confusion to alarm as he processed the U-Haul truck and strangers in what he considered his driveway. "Excuse me," Todd called to Sarah, who looked up from her gardening with friendly curiosity. "What are you doing in our house?" Michael appeared in the doorway, paperwork in hand. "Your house? I think there's been a mistake." I got out of my car and walked calmly toward the scene, pulling an envelope from my jacket pocket. Lindsay spotted me, her face shifting from confusion to understanding to pure fury in the span of 3 seconds. "Dad, what is going on here? Why are strangers in our house?" Lindsay's voice carried that sharp edge I'd grown tired of hearing. Michael and Sarah exchanged worried glances, Sarah still holding her gardening trowel, like she might need to defend her new home. "Sir, I don't know who you are," Todd said to Michael, "but you need to move your belongings out immediately." Michael held up his paperwork. "I have the deed right here. We closed yesterday." "That's impossible. This is our house." Sarah's voice was small but determined. "Maybe we should call the police?" I stepped forward, my voice carrying the calm authority I'd learned in my years managing construction projects. "That won't be necessary." Lindsay's tone turned demanding. "Dad, fix this. Now." I addressed Michael and Sarah first. "I'm sorry for the confusion. Please continue with your move-in." Then I turned to Lindsay and Todd. "The house was sold because it belonged to me." Todd's face reddened. "What do you mean belonged to you?" "Check the original deed. It was never transferred to your names." Lindsay's voice rose to that familiar shriek. "You can't just sell our home." "I can sell my property," I replied evenly, which is exactly what I did. "This is theft. We'll sue you." Todd was practically shouting now. "With what money? I believe your credit cards were declined in Paris." Michael whispered something to Sarah, who nodded and started toward their front door now. "Please go inside," I told them. "This doesn't concern you." Lindsay's voice turned desperate. "Where are we supposed to live? Where are our things?" I extended the envelope I'd been holding. Todd snatched it, tearing it open with angry fingers. He read aloud, "Secure storage, Unit 47B, Brady Street." "Storage?" Lindsay's voice cracked. "You put our life in storage?" "I preserved everything carefully. First month's rent is paid." Todd crumpled the paper. "This is insane. You can't do this to family." "Family doesn't exclude fathers from family vacations. That's completely different." "Is it?" Todd stepped closer, trying to intimidate through proximity. "We'll contest this. We'll fight you in court." "The sale is legal. The property was mine." Lindsay's voice turned manipulative, the tone she'd used since childhood when she wanted something. "How could you do this to your own daughter?" I looked at her for a long moment. "How could you do what you did to your own father?" Sarah emerged from the house, concern evident in her voice. "Is everything all right?" "Everything's fine," I said to her. "Enjoy your new home." Lindsay and Todd stood on the sidewalk, their European luggage still in hand, looking like tourists who'd taken a wrong turn into someone else's life. I walked back to my car with measured steps, my work boots solid on the pavement. "This isn't over," Todd shouted behind me. I got into my car and started the engine, classical music resuming where it had left off. "Yes, it is." 3 months later, I was reading the morning paper when my doorbell rang. A process server handed me legal documents, Lindsay and Todd's lawsuit. I signed for them without surprise. By afternoon, I was reviewing the court's decision in my kitchen. Lawsuit dismissed. Property owner had legal right to sell his own property. The judge had been thorough and unsympathetic to their claims. Todd and Lindsay were responsible for their own attorney fees. My lawyer called within an hour. Clean victory, Gary. They have no grounds for appeal. The local newspaper ran a small article. Family property dispute resolved. I filed everything in my new folder, labeled Legal Victory, and moved on with my day. The town's gossip network had been buzzing for months. At the coffee shop, I overheard conversations. I always thought that son-in-law seemed entitled. Others said, Gary Owens worked hard his whole life. He deserved better. Some disapproving voices murmured, families should stick together. But I'd learned to let others' opinions roll off me like water. Running into Marcus Chen at the hardware store, he asked, How are you doing with everything? Better than I expected. That afternoon, I visited the pet store I'd noticed months ago. Max, a 3-year-old golden retriever, was looking for a new home because his family was moving overseas. He's been with a family, good with people, loves car rides, the owner explained. I knelt down, and Max approached immediately, tail wagging like he'd been waiting specifically for me. The connection was instant, Max seeming to understand my loneliness, me recognizing his need for a companion who wouldn't abandon him. An hour later, Max was riding shotgun in my car, head out the window, both of us heading toward something new. That first night, he slept by my bed, and for the first time in months, neither of us felt alone. With Max at my feet, I researched travel trailers online. Best RVs for senior travel led me to articles about freedom and adventure. At RV dealerships, salespeople were eager to help. I test drove a 25-foot Airstream, perfect size for one person and a dog who'd claimed the passenger seat before we'd even signed papers. I used the trade-in value of my second car plus savings to purchase it outright. Max loved RV life immediately. We planned our route. National parks, small towns, places I'd always wanted to see but had postponed for family obligations. The morning we left Davenport, my house was prepared for extended absence. I'd arranged mail hold and asked neighbors to watch the property. Loading the trailer, I packed camping gear, Max's supplies, and one photo album. Pictures of Lindsay as a child, before disappointment changed us both. Max sensed adventure coming, his excitement infectious as I started the engine and checked the trailer connection. We drove through Davenport one last time, past familiar places that looked smaller now. Passing Maple Street, I saw Michael and Sarah's children playing in the yard, the house finally filled with the joy it was meant to hold. The highway sign read, Colorado, 500 miles. Max had his head out the window, my hand steady on the steering wheel, both of us finally free. That evening we stopped at a scenic overlook in Colorado. I opened a camping chair as the sun set over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple I'd never taken time to notice before. Max settled beside me, content and loyal, no agenda beyond companionship. For the first time in years, I was exactly where I belonged. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.